Good evening, Kulin, and welcome to Design Dialogues hosted by Rethinking the Future in collaboration with Fublis. This is your host, Bhavya, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Kulin Kapadia, the visionary founder and principal architect of Alcove Design Studio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over. Wonderful to be part of this forum and excited to kind of answer a few questions that you may have.
So, just a brief introduction about your firm. Alcove Design Studio, based in Gurugram, creates a functional and sustainable spaces across residential and commercial sectors. Their integrated approach covers architecture, interiors, and project management to deliver thoughtful and efficient designs. With the focus on detail and client collaboration, Alcove creates environments that resonate with purpose and aesthetics. So, before starting the questions, I would like you to inform that this interview will be published on the website of Fublis. So, sign up to the Fublis website and you'll get the access to watch this interview. So shall we proceed with the questions?
Sure. And
Yeah.
just a small correction. We are not based in Gurgaon. We are based in Bombay and in Delhi.
Okay. My apologies.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah. Could you elaborate on your studio Alcove Design's research and analysis process and how it shapes your design concepts?
So let me start with the very word alcove. Alcove is an architectural word and it's a technical word and it means niche. It means like a little niche that is carved out in a larger space, and that forms the basis or the philosophy on the basis of which all our designs, all our projects are kind of designed and executed. So we are a little niche in the larger world of the construction or architecture forum, and that's how we've kind of positioned ourselves as a little niche. And this particular idea is on the basis of, or the foundations on which Alcove Design has been started. And research and analysis are our fundamental features of or the fundamental pillars in shaping our design concepts. Our process is extremely comprehensive. It's adaptable. We kind of deep dive into the project's context, into environment, into the intended purpose, and this purpose kind of helps us to align our designs not just aesthetically, also functionally with architectural and natural surroundings of each space. So I think it's very important to understand context first, in terms of how we analyze the physical, the cultural, the environment around us. So that's the first part before we even actually get into design. Secondly, is we understand client, we understand the user, we understand the market insights, basis which so we don't straight away start kind of designing. There is a lot of research analysis that kind of goes into this before we actually start or deep dive into any particular into any so that's where our kind of basic philosophy on research and analysis comes in. We also look at few other aspects. One is which is what we call as functional analysis, where we actually map out a spatial analysis of the space. So, whether it's an office, workplace, whatever, we actually do a detailed mapping of that, understand whether the functional requirements, operational flow are all valid within that space, and then we kind of get into the whole thing. We also do a bit of research on material and sustainability, on technology, on innovation, and finally all of this is put together, and our designs are always iterative. So we will not straight away give you one solution. It's an iterative solution. There is a back and forth, there are feedback loops, and that this whole kind of process, right from understanding of concept, of client, of functional analysis, materials, technology, and this whole iterative design gives us our kind of final design solution. So that's how, and it's a rigorous approach, and that allows us to create designs that are not only visually appealing, but also deeply connected to their purpose, to the setting, and the people who are going to use it. And that's why each project is unique and each project is different. And each project is only valid for that client. It cannot be valid for another client. So that's how our approach is.
Could you provide insights in your approach to design plus build solution and how it benefits the client experience?
Sure. So I think our approach to a design and build solution is that we provide clients with a kind of streamlined, cohesive, and an efficient experience by managing both design and construction under one roof. So we ensure a kind of seamless transition from concept to completion. And there are several advantages of doing that. One is that we become the single point of contact for the client, very, very important. Things are not lost in translation, in terms of requirements, in terms of needs, etc. It's we are there. There's just one person who is responsible for that project, one person, one company, kind of thing. Our solutions are integrated in terms of design and execution. So when we handle both design and construction, we built as per our vision, right? It's built exactly how we visualize it. We're not relying on third parties in terms of what we visualize versus what is getting built. So there are no gaps there. It's kind of seamless there. Plus, we control costs and we control time. So those are important factors in this whole thing. And there's always transparency and accountability. So we are accountable for what we are delivering, and it's a very transparent process. So there are no kind of hidden things within. It's just one-on-one with the client. And that also enhances quality control, because since we are building it, we ensure that quality is maintained. It gives us a certain freedom to customize things, a certain flexibility in terms of this whole framework, where every site has certain unforeseen challenges, and we as design and build solution providers, it gives us that flexibility to kind of change things around. And obviously, and then we also give you a post kind of completion support on any client, any project. So that's a kind of an end-to-end client-centered approach. Not only saves time, money, resources, but also enhances the overall experience from our end and the client's end. So it's all about creating spaces that finally reflect the client's vision while delivering, the quality, the consistency, innovation that we are known for.
Can you discuss the decision-making process behind selecting natural elements and materials and how they enhance both physical appeal and visual appeal and well-being of the workspace in the Mahyco project?
Okay. So, Mahyco was one of our recently completed kind of projects. And Mahyco, if you look at it from a company perspective, it's uh, it's a company that does research and development on hybrid seeds. So Mahyco itself stands for Maharashtra Hybrid Seed Corporation. So it's got to do with seeds, it's got to do with natural materials, it's got to do with sustainability, it's got to do with green agriculture, and and that's the whole kind of gamut from where it comes. So first and foremost, it was very, very important for us to kind of align ourselves in terms of our design solution or the materials, in terms of what are those Mahyco's values and what industry they operate in. So that was, so first we looked at, their connection to agriculture, and they operate in the agriculture. So using natural material definitely kind of reflects that core of the company. Then we also looked at materials that are authentic and sustainable. So since the company represents the earth, it comes from the earth, it comes from the soil, it's talking about that. So our material choices were also very authentic, very sustainable. We've used wood, we've used stone, we've used terracotta, we've used terrazzo. So we've looked at those kind of materials at Mahyco. The other thing is, of course, your materials are there, but then how do you get a visual appeal out of that? So we played with textures, we played with tones, we played with whether they're warm tones, organic textures, and ultimately we kind of created a balanced contrast in all of these materials, because ultimately it's still a corporate workplace. It's not something, it's not a house, it's not a restaurant. So we had to kind of get that balance into the space. The other part on materials is that, how do we create a certain sense of a comfort using these materials? And that's when we started introducing biophilic design, natural, plants and things like that. We also looked at air quality. We looked at acoustics. So and eventually it should give you, the office needed to be durable, and it needed to give a kind of a timeless appeal. So that was very, very important to us. So this whole timeless aesthetic was extremely, so, playing with these materials to give you that, where uh, it's not here for today. This company is so old, and it's going to stay there for, how many ever more years. So the aesthetic kind of needs to kind of agree with that, and that's how we kind of work with the materials on Mike.
So, in what ways does architectural design embody the company's brand identity and mission? And how did you ensure that these elements were seamlessly and timelessly integrated throughout the space?
Again, as continuing from the previous question, brand identity and mission of Mahyco, I mean, that was very important to understand again. So creating a space that reflects Mahyco's pioneering role in agriculture and its commitment to sustainability, its commitment to innovation and growth. So this whole seamless kind of integration we achieve through, one is again what I mentioned earlier, is, just the natural materials. Then we've used a lot of agricultural motifs. We've looked at greenery and living walls. Okay, then to reflect the company's growth and progress, we've done a very modern, open, collaborative layout, or very open, modern workplace. It's not about inward, it's all about collaboration. So we kind of looked at that. We also, in terms of our space planning, we looked at flow and progression. So, how one space kind of flows into the other, and what are the progressions in that space. So we looked at that. Again, we looked at sustainability and responsible design in terms of energy efficient lighting, in terms of ventilation, in terms of, certain recycled and locally sourced materials. So create this whole kind of cohesive brand experience. Not only that, but we also then unified the entire color scheme. So if you see the color scheme, it's like colors of the earth, and that's how we kind of, you know made a kind of integrated visual storyline to kind of connect you back to Mahyco.
So, how did you address the acoustic considerations in this process of this project to ensure that a quiet and a focused work environment while maintaining an open layout?
Okay. So I think one very important aspect is zoning and spatial planning. Now, when I say zoning, it's all to do with activity-based zones. So, when you design spaces, we typically look at what activity is being performed by the people, and then we zone those activities together. So that was very important, because noisy areas are in one space, high traffic zones are in another space, meeting rooms and quiet private workplaces are in another zone, and common areas like, breakout rooms, lounges, cafeteria is placed to higher sound zones. So it was very important to kind of understand that. Secondly, we created something which is known as acoustic buffer zones. So instead of, one space flowing into the other, we very kind of strategically placed, let's say, green spaces between workstations. We place certain screens where sound kind of gets absorbed. Of course, and this all still needed to be, going back to Mahyco's values in terms of, sustainable, green, uh, earthy materials. So we used a lot of plant screening in this case to kind of play with that. So that was this thing. Then even in typical areas and typical kind of spaces, we used a lot of sound absorbing material. So whether there were acoustic ceiling panels, there were certain wall treatments done, there was carpeting in certain areas, certain soft carpeting options, soft flooring options. Even the way partitions were designed, they were like, there were acoustic dividers between desks. There were certain strategically placed furniture where, upholstered seating. So a lot of smaller aspects and softer aspects to kind of absorb sound. So luckily the brand value of Mahyco kind of allowed us to play with these softer materials. So there's no steel, there's not that much of glass. It's all softer materials that kind of allow you that whole acoustic this thing. And then of course, wherever there is glass, we've used double glass, full soundproofing. We've done quiet booths and things like that. So that's how we've kind of played with the whole acoustic aspect.
So looking over your portfolio, it's me seeing that you have a really high profile client list, for example, like Facebook and Sony Pictures. So what specific strategies you have found were most effective in creating workspaces for such high profile clients?
I think our strategies basically I think would emphasize mainly on a couple of aspects. One is flexibility, one is functionality, and another thing which we call as a brand aligned aesthetic. Okay, a brand, and I'll kind of tell you what a brand centric design is that all of these companies are kind of extremely brand heavy companies, whether it's a Facebook or a Sony or whoever else. And the entire workplace is kind of integrated with the company's brand identity. Why does a Facebook office look like the way it is? It's because the basic premise of a Facebook office is that their philosophy is that we are work in progress. We are never finished our work. We've never finished working. So you'll always see exposed ceilings. You'll see raw plywood. You'll see concrete floors. So that whole aesthetic is a very brand centric aesthetic. It's derived from the company. Similarly, Sony has its own set of aesthetics, and that's how um, I would say those are extremely important to understand, to kind of inculcate in your design. Second is both these projects or both these clients advocate a lot of flexible and adaptive space. They are such large organizations that what happens within the workplace, that there are kind of people moving in and out, and they always want this adaptability. They want adaptability of function, of collaboration, of solo tasks, of meeting rooms, of events. And it's very important to understand how that function happens, and how you can adapt, because see, real estate is still expensive, and how do you kind of make this kind of flexible and adaptive, so that it functions as a larger whole. um, Another important aspect I think we looked at for these clients was technology integration, and it's extremely important to understand where technology is today, and whether advanced AV solutions, whether smart office systems, whether seamless connectivity within the office, smart lighting, climate control, wireless charging, various aspects of technology, and how do you take that and put that into the modern workplace today. So that also becomes a key element for us when we kind of design. And I would say overall, all these organizations also focus a lot on wellness, on wellness focused design. So using the correct ergonomic furniture, using green zones, using quiet areas, using biophilic elements, indoor plants, natural materials, all that kind of gets incorporated into these designs. Most of these projects are in urban areas. They are dense urban areas. So again, it's very, very important to effectively use real estate for them, and how, so it's extremely, space comes at a premium for these clients. So space utilization is important, and we optimize every square foot by creating multi-purpose areas, implementing creative ways to use storage solutions, meeting rooms, and various things on how you can multi-use the space. So that is important. Then we've looked at certain custom built elements, and then of course also eco-conscious materials, acoustic design. All of these various strategies one needs to put together, to brainstorm together, to finally create workplaces that not only reflect the client's brand and value, but also supports, I would say, well-being, productivity, growth of their teams. And then the result, of course, is an environment that feels cohesive, it feels purposeful, and it's conducive to the high standards of these that these companies hold today.
Could you share an example of another project of how your values, innovation, discipline, and integrity have guided a very particularly challenging project?
Okay, here let me talk a little bit about one of our projects, which is called the Atlas Skill Tech University. It's based in Bombay in an area called Kurla. And just to give you a little kind of context to this project, the client gave us an existing building that was a commercial building. The building was like the framework was ready, the building was ready, nothing done in the interiors, but the original intent of that building was to make it into an office or a commercial building. The client took over that building and asked us that you need to convert this building into a urban university. So the very first challenge is how do you take a commercial building, how do you convert it into a university block? So one block, so there were two buildings. One block was the university block. The other block was the residential block. Both commercial buildings, you're converting one where kids are staying, and there's a hostel, and then there are cafeterias and gym and all of that. At the other end, you're converting office building into classrooms and things like that. So it was an unbelievable challenge, and that's where I think the point of innovation, discipline, and integrity, these three things have to means one has to be focused to kind of give a solution that kind of works into this whole thing. So in terms of innovation, of course, innovate. How do you plan for this? So right from the drawing board to execution. I mean, at every stage we had to kind of change, innovate all the time. Plus, technology coming in. I mean, various technological solutions we use to kind of enhance that this thing. In terms of, I would say, our other value of discipline, uh, since this was since this was university, we were working on an extremely tight timeline. And the entire team, including the client, contractor, project manager, all of us had to be disciplined on that timeline. It was very, very, because the students had to start a school and had to university and had to come and stay there. So there was no buffer. So that's where our discipline in time and resource management was extremely critical for the university deadlines. And then the third value of integrity, I would say any project of this scale, there were massive budget constraints, and our job was to ensure high quality, staying true to the client's vision without compromising on material or cutting corners. Required very careful making, decision making and transparency. So two parts to it, and that's where integrity kind of comes in. So of course, in terms of the outcome, then our commitment, strong commitment, I would say, to innovation, discipline, and integrity resulted in a campus that is both state of the art, grounded in its educational excellence, and the finished project kind of supports its mission to forward thinking, skills oriented education, and well received by students, faculty, and the administrators. So it really exemplifies our core values that way.
So, how did you manage to create distinct zones for the gym and cafe while maintaining a cohesive overall design in the IAFF project of yours?
Create distinct zones. I think zoning was, first of all, what we will call it as purpose-driven zoning. So, recognizing that the gym and the cafe serve very different purposes. So that's very important to understand in terms of purpose-driven. So one is on fitness, relaxation versus dining and socializing, two very different aspects. So for the gym, we focus on creating an energizing, motivating environment, incorporating, bright, dynamic colors, durable materials, an open layout, that supports a range of fitness activities. And then for the cafe, we lean to a more warmer, more relaxed kind of an ambience that encourages, a lot more social interaction, unwinding, softer lighting, comfortable seating, natural tones that set versus complementary. This so that was more in terms of the purpose-driven zoning. Then I would say material consistency along with unique accents. So to maintain visual harmony, we use a consistent base palette of colors and materials, and such as polished concrete, natural wood, some metallic finish. Again because we had to align to the brand aesthetic of IIFL, and then we use distinct accents in each space. So that you've got some vibrant wall graphics or you've got some rubberized flooring, so that becomes distinct to that kind of a function. And then we also unified lighting, and then we did a specific kind of a zone wise adjustment in terms of lighting. So doing this whole approach basically enabled us to design the spaces and serve distinct functions and yet feel harmonious within the larger office environment. And the result is, of course, a cohesive workplace that flows seamlessly while offering employees a purpose-specific zones for fitness, for relaxation, for socializing. So that's what our this thing is.
So, how did you envision the users interacting within the dual purpose space, and what experience were prioritized for gym goers and the cafe visitors?
So, in envisioning a dual purpose space, we wanted the gym goers and the cafe visitors to have a very distinct, yet a very complementary experience. So, providing a holistic approach to well being, productivity, and relaxation. So, first is of course, looking at spatial flow and user kind of interaction. So, the gym space is more to kind of energize the users, fostering a sense of focus, motivation. So, we prioritize clear paths for movement that ensured that the layout accommodated both individual workouts and small group sessions, encouraging, kind of camaraderie between colleagues and without overcrowding. And then equipment and open zones and are strategically placed to optimize the flow and to prevent kind of congestion and things like that. In terms of the whereas in terms of the cafe, it's the cafe is for all. Okay, it's more relaxed, it's more inviting, and there we envisioned people kind of socializing over coffee, enjoying their breaks, meetings, or engaging in some kind of informal discussions, so things like that. So that was more in terms of spatial flow and the user interaction. Then we also looked at sensory experiences, colors. So like I mentioned earlier, like gym had a specific color, cafe had a specific color. There was a base color, but then we used specific kind of experiences there. And then of course in terms of the overall community and interaction, how do you create that and overall kind of this thing to create a kind of cohesion and balance in the whole space. So that's what it was.
The last question for the day, Kulin, is as your firm evolves, how do you adapt your design process to stay relevant in the constantly changing architecture landscape?
Architectural landscape is changing and changing quickly, and
Yeah.
and how do you cope up with that is a tough one to answer. But uh, I think one is that one important aspect is that learn to adapt change, learn to kind of take it within you and move on. You can't be stuck where you started out with. And keeping that in mind, today we've started leveraging a lot of AI and technology integration. So we've started using AI in a big way. You know, we've started using AI not only in our design. Of course, design is one big aspect of it, but we've also started integrated it in our workflows, in our so it's not only the pretty picture, but our back end work, our technical drawings. We've started kind of using a lot of that. It we've also kind of streamlined not also it helps us in terms of our research, in terms of understanding trends analysis, spatial planning, various aspects in which little in the entire process where we've been using AI. Of course, also in terms of our visualization and things like that. The other aspect to keep up with time is that since we are a research heavy organization, I mean, there's continuous research that takes place on various things. And we also look at something which is known as a current trend analysis. I mean, what is in trend, how is it, how valid it is, and then we're kind of constantly changing and adapting to that. So this practice helps us bring in fresh ideas and relevant solutions to every project. Uh, Also in terms of you've got AI on one end, but you still got a larger aspect of sustainability and adaptability at the other end. So marrying those two is also important, because sustainability today has become like central to modern design. And the design our design philosophy is in fact kind of increasingly focused on eco-friendly and adaptable solutions. So what are those new materials, what are those new solutions? So energy efficiency, so we're constantly looking at that. The other aspect that today the way we work has changed completely. Especially post pandemic. It's like there were workplace pre pandemic and post pandemic, and that's become like a kind of a benchmark. And today we do a lot of work in terms of hybrid. We look at optimizing real estate for clients. We look at client centric customization. So every client has unique requirements now. Earlier it was very different. It was meeting rooms, workstations, do it, and kind of. But now every client, first of all, we need to understand how they function, and every hybrid solution is different for every client, every function, every department. So we to keep up to that is extremely important. And because of that, we also focus a lot in terms of flexibility and modularity in design. How things can move, how things can be, how things can change. So that kind of helps us. And of course, in terms of understanding new age products, new age materials, I mean, we've got strong kind of I would say we partner with leading suppliers, manufacturers who also share their insights with us. So that kind of puts everything together with our intent, our original, uh, I would say, intent of our commitment to learning and development, because we constantly learning on that. So so all of this, and another last point, very important, is that every project, once we've completed it, we don't kind of shut it and we put it back. We look at it, we try and we look at it back and say how would we have refined it. We take feedback, we reflect on it, so that those learnings are then applied to new projects. So that's how it's constantly kind of. So by combining a research based approach with adaptability, with technology and AI, and a commitment to sustainability, flexibility, we ensure that our firm stays relevant and responsive in a kind of constantly shifting architectural landscape. So that's where we kind of put things together.
Kulin, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure to have you here, and don't forget to sign up on the Fublis website.